This is the regular board meeting of August 18, 2022. The time is now 4:09 p.m. Please call the roll.
President Herrera,
Here.
Vice President Chavez,
Here.
Clerk Cortese.
Here.
Member Lay.
Here.
Member Doe.
Here.
Again, welcome to this board meeting of August 18, 2022. Are there any members of the public who would like to provide public comment to the board on a closed session agenda item at this time?
There is no one present online or in person.
No one present or to speak. The board will now recess to closed session and will return for the public session. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the board meeting of August 18, 2022. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands. So, again, welcome to this meeting. Members of the public, please submit your public comments as follows. You may raise your virtual hand in Zoom to request to speak and offer comment in real time. In-person public commentators will be allowed entry 3 speakers at a time in the boardroom. Upon conclusion of a speaker's public comment on the agenda item, the speaker must exit the boardroom. We need it quiet in the back if we can close the door, and thank you. You may also submit your public comment online by accessing the form on the district's homepage at ESUHSD.org or the link on the agenda. Please reference the agenda item number in your written comment and limit your written comments to no more than 1,000 characters in length. Public comments submitted online will be read into the record. Please note, all meetings are recorded. All regular and special meetings of the Board of Trustees and board study sessions are streamed live on meeting nights and are also available for viewing the day after the meeting by accessing the district's YouTube channel listed on the district's webpage at ESUHSD.org under the quick links section. The board is not able to respond to items that are not on the agenda or any personnel issues. Your comment will be read into the record and will be directed to the superintendent and/or the appropriate staff member for response. Interpretation of this meeting in Spanish and Vietnamese can be heard by accessing the link and following the instructions shown on the agenda or the district's website. I'll also note that Board Vice President Lorena Chavez is joining us on Zoom. She's a little under the weather, but well enough to be participating from home. So moving on with the agenda, number 5.01 is adoption of the agenda, and it's actually an opportunity to remove or change anything on the agenda. And if there is no request of that nature, then we'll proceed with the published agenda.
There's no such request.
Okay, thank you. Then on item 6.01, recognitions, we have none scheduled today. And making note that this is the first board meeting of the new school year. We're off to a new year start. Item 7.01, student governing board representative, we do not have Not yet. We don't yet have a student governing board representative for this school year. Item 8.08 and, excuse me, item 8.01. And this is operational items and board discussion and or action. We can proceed as published, or if anybody wants to reverse the order of them, now is the time to make that request. And hearing none, I'm going to proceed with item 8.02. Mr. Superintendent, regarding update on the coronavirus and the resolution for remote teleconference meetings.
Thank you, Board President. We'll be waiting for me to get permissions to share my screen, and then we will begin. Looks like we're up. So tonight we'll be looking at coronavirus and its status in our community, and we'll be looking at the dashboard and current data and comparing it to the last time that we were in session in school. We'll also look at the current safety measures and just remind us of what our field trip procedures are, and then look at next steps. As always, we look back to the last time we were in session together, and now last time that data that we looked at was from May when we were all together in schools in the May 18, and we could see that the 7-day rolling average of cases was 798 at that point. As of today, that number has dropped to 563. We see that during the month of July, there was that spike, but it's starting to come down again. This is the one we don't like to look at, but it's also definitely weighs into the considerations of the county and the CDC. Is this is cumulative. This is not a 10-day number, but cumulative deaths related to COVID-19. And when we were last together, the May 13 data that we had was 2,281. Today's number, some months later, is 2,416. And you can see if you look at this last data in the most recent weeks and months, is that the deaths related to COVID is also is dropping again, and that we're not seeing the spikes that we saw in earlier times. This one's interesting. The last time we were together, the percentage of residents that were vaccinated was 91.3, and for those had received the booster, 70.2. As we look at current data, what happened to the booster? That percentage, it dropped to 68.9, and that's indicative that more people became vaccinated during this same time. So the vaccination number is higher, which drops the booster number until they go in for the booster. So that probably will catch up now that they've been vaccinated, will take time to get the booster. We keep a 10-day rolling total. This is not an average. This is a total of positive cases, and we use a 10-day. So even if a person's returned to work, they stay within the dashboard, and we've had this up and running since last year, and we're going to keep it up. And so currently our numbers when we walked away, positive cases was about 1.85 for staff and 1.33 for students. We've adjusted the staff and student numbers to this year to our current numbers, and we can see that our positive cases for both staff and students are down with current levels of positivity. But we also know from just anecdotally and what we can see actually through wastewater data, there are people that test positive and don't report. So another data point that the county and the CDC is looking is actually what appears in wastewater, and that over time that's giving us a clearer vision of how much positivity there is, maybe even more realistic than people self-disclosing their own results. And when we look at that wastewater data, we are seeing a decline in our positivity within the county and within San Jose. So we're going to continue the masking recommendation. It continues to be optional. We'll continue to make testing free and available for staff and students. We've got plenty of PPE. If you want a mask, we've got one for you. And and you could have two pretty much at this point. We've got plenty of masks that we purchased over the last couple of months. Once again, the new guidelines that symptomatic individuals are encouraged to test quickly and then follow the isolation guidelines. The isolation guidelines is a pretty dense chart, so that's been sent out to our staff, and we'll also be sending it out as part of the board update, the graph that people will have available to them. On our new notification, this is the kind of how our notification and reporting has evolved over the last 2 years, let's say, is we now are responsible to notify the county if over 5% of a site's population is positive over a 10-day period. That's the new thing that we look for, is looking to see if we're holding on to a 5% or more positivity, that then we would report to the county. As we did from the start, we'll maintain proper ventilation and air filtration, and I want to thank our maintenance team for firing up the HVAC system early and making sure everything was good to go. That's what was really helpful for us to start. As we've seen from the beginning, though, one of the best ways to mitigate the effects of COVID and also is that through vaccination. And so we've included the URL for those that would like to seek out where they can get vaccinated or a booster shot. It'll be here. It'll be in our board summary, and then we'll also be posting that on the front of the website so that staff, students, and families have one spot to go to figure out where they could seek vaccination. And once again, in dealing with mental health and wellness issues from distance learning, and once again, there is a self-reporting or a referral process that we have in our district that we encourage people to utilize. The field trip requirements for now have stayed largely the same for overnight and out of state, that we're looking to make sure that people test before and after for overnight field trips. And then for out of state, that we test negative before, after, and then again after 3 days. And make sure that where we are going have rates that are equal or lower to our own in this area. And we'll continue to look at cases and what this does now that we're all in school together and across our state to see whether we adjust this, but we've decided to hold on to it as is for now. So really our next step is once again, is just to make sure everybody knows if you're feeling symptomatic or you just want to check in, that there's testing that's available for you. It's free and available. The personal protective equipment is free and available, and we'll continue to monitor and report as appropriate. And I can tell you that those reporting obligations are changing very quickly now. So we'll just make sure that we continue to update what our responsibilities are. As far as our update, that's where we're at. And again, from the get-go of this, our staff, our students, our community, and our crews have just been excellent and keep taking care of themselves and taking care of each other. Thank you for it. As to an action on this item, there is a resolution before you to again authorize the remote teleconferencing of meetings according to and district committee meetings subject to the Brown Act from August 18 through September 16.
Move for approval.
I'll second.
Moved by trustee Doe, seconded by board clerk Cortese. Please call the roll.
President Herrera,
Aye.
Vice President Chavez,
Aye.
Clerk Cortese,
Aye.
Member Lay,
Aye.
Member Doe.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. And moving on then to item 8.03, a 45-day budget update. Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, with us to present the updated budget is Mr. Ron Wheelahan. Mr. Wheelahan has been working with us as a consultant on this item and will be presenting the 45-day budget update from the last time we saw him before we all said goodbye for the summer.
Good evening, board members and members of the Eastside community. So tonight I'm just going to go over real quickly the 5 major items that happened during budget development by the state of California. So what Ed Code allows you to do is you have to adopt a budget by June 30th, but the state wasn't done with the budget. The governor finally signed on June 27th, and 45 days after that, you can go ahead and revise your budget. So next slide. These are our normal cycles. Right now we're at the end is developing the 45-day revision based on the governor's signature. So we'll be back with all these other reports through the year. Next slide, please. So Ed Code allows you to adjust your budget based on the state budget, and this year's budget bill is called AB 181, and there's significant one-time and ongoing funding in there, and I'll kind of go over those items. Our finance department right now will revise and update based on that information. So the main 5 things that were added to the budget, the information we didn't have in June, were revised LCFF calculations. And the fix, I talked to you about the different declining enrollment fixes, how they were going around. We finally have the final on that. They presented a learning recovery emergency block grant. And I'll tell you more about that and what that money can be used for and how much that is. Another one-time funding source is called the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant. That's again, one-time money. And they also decided on the universal meals funding. So now I'll cover those 5 major items. So one was the LCFF. So the COLA ended up being 6.56% on this year's dollars with an additional LCFF base grant adjustment of 6.28. So that is built into our LCFF. And these are based on our ADA and our unduplicated pupil percentage. And this is good news. This is ongoing. This netted about $29 million of ongoing funding. So the second pillar is the enrollment and attendance relief. So enrollment throughout the state was already going down. The pandemic made it worse. So the AB 181, they came up with their solution is to give you an attendance yield and to allow you to do 3-year averaging. So I'll try to kind of give you an idea of the math behind that in a second. So here it is here. I don't know if we can move our friends at home. So the process looks like this. Taking before COVID and taking last year after we returned from COVID, taking our 2 attendance rate and coming up with a quotient, which is 104.31%. So then they said, okay, we're going to take what you guys' attendance was before COVID, what it was last year. We're not going to count the distance learning year that went in 2021 is not even in the picture here. And we're going to adjust your ADA based on 104%.
Is it possible to move that image so that it's not on the? Yeah. Is it possible to move the image down so that we could, it's not over the slide? Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, so under there was our our attendance rate, which is 95.3% before COVID, which is a pretty good 95% of the kids showing up on an average daily basis. But this is what it was last year. It was 91%. One out of. Yeah, that's what got. So you divide those 2 numbers. And again, this was state of California. Very good. State of California math is you divide those in and come up with a quotient of 100. They didn't average mathematically. Averaging percentage gives you problems. You divide in and you come up with a quotient that you use to adjust. So you take that and you adjust last year's actual ADA up, so to 21,009 kids. Then here's this. So that was their first magic, was to take care of our attendance rate and our ADA. Now the next thing is we're going to average those 3 together to come up with even more relief on your ADA. So here was our ADA in 1920. They allowed that to roll over in the distance learning year. Now we have the new result by adjusting up our attendance rate, and now we're able to do a 3-year average. So the net effect was, 1,100 students for East Side. So every district is going to be different based on their attendance, based on their ADA, but this is what it worked out for us. So a very positive fix to the ADA and enrollment issue. Yeah, sorry, sir. Like 1819, is that what you mean, like 1819? That, it was around 95 traditionally.
It was in the ballpark there, yeah.
Yeah. No, it did bring it up about 4.31. Is that what you mean? Yeah. Right. And this is, some years ago, you used to be able to call mom and say, hey, was they sick? They called that dialing for dollars, right? And you could just have a verbal saying, yeah, they were out sick. But they ended that about 10 years ago saying either they're here or they're not. So this is the effective. So we may have, going way back, a better attendance rate, but it was based on calling mom, dad, and asking if the student was really sick. Yeah. Okay, so this brings us the 3-year average, bringing up our ADA 1,100. So the next item after the fix, so I put this in graphically. So this I've showed at first interim, second interim on how the ADA cliff. So now we have the numbers of what it did to level us off. And I plotted the numbers with the help of Ms. Sylvia Plio. Thank you, Sylvia. And we've got our new 3-year numbers, which we anticipate our ADA moving forward. So good news on the ADA fix and all the absenteeism last year. So the next pillar is what's called the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant. And our estimate is $23.4 million. This is, again, one-time funding. It's based on our ADA and UPP, and we can use these funds through the 27-28 school year. There is reporting that needs to be done 3 times. In the next slide, and here are some of the uses. So you can use them to stabilize learning time, increase or decrease is a better word, staff to pupil ratios, close learning gaps, pupil support, and additional academic services. So a plan is required with that one. So the next one is called the Arts, Music, Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant. So again, this has a very political title. It makes you think this is arts, music, and instructional materials only. It's not. This is discretionary money. This is districts coming to the state and saying, hey, we need relief from STRS. We need relief for other COVID-related items. We need, all of our other expenses, inflationary items that have hit us. So it's completely discretionary. No plan is required. One-time funding. It's about $666 was the latest number per student. And again, the board must approve a plan for this as well, for the expenditures. The other one had a spending plan. This is just, you have to have a plan on how you're gonna spend those dollars. The 5th pillar is our universal meals. So the governor said from now on, any student that wishes a meal could get 2 a day, either breakfast or lunch. So the question, of course, is how are we going to be funded for that? And we didn't get a clear answer when we developed our budget. We have it now. We've got, at least for our lunches, we know it's going to be $4.62. We've built that in. And so we were anticipating a $2.1 million deficit in food services based on this new program. So that's been reduced to about $440K. So given those 5 pillars, let's take a look at the multi-year. This is where we're anticipating ending up this year, and in a couple of weeks on September 15th, we'll bring forward the unaudited actuals. So this is still our estimates. The fiscal departments are busily closing our books, paying invoices, receiving dollars. So we still have to close our books, but this is what our estimate is a $7 million deficit. And we bring our balance forward at 56 million. This is with all the new funding. This leaves us with 89.5 million. So again, that goes into our fund balance. And I showed on the other slides that we have multiple years to spend that. So we went ahead and put that in over the multiple years to kind of even out our deficit spending. So the only way you can get in, and I've mentioned this a couple of times, can spend down your fund balance is by deficit spending. So these are our expenditures. We anticipate at the end of next year to have a 7.29% fund balance. We're going to carry that forward. In the end of our third year, we should have about 42.4 million, which will leave us at 3%. The fiscal solvency plan for reduction in force is not in play anymore. I'll do the average, the warning though, is we got to keep, this is one-time money and we've got to keep adjusting our staffing to the number of students that as we face declining enrollment. So that is our outlook for 3 years out is still to be have a $42 million fund balance, which is 3%. So what's next? As I mentioned, the unaudited actuals, September 15th, we'll find out exactly how we closed out last year, see if we really did deficit spend 7 million or if it was different. Your new CBO will bring forward the first interim report. We'll start bringing in the audits from last year, and we start the whole cycle over again with developing next year's budget, the 23-24 school year. I'm not going to go into I put these for information because people said, hey, you know, the governor did other things with college and career, dual enrollment, workforce. So these ones are just kind of, we'll get more information, but the governor did some other little goodies in the budget. And this is, we didn't include those in the 4-year, in the 45-day. So I ripped through that. Any questions regarding?
Thank you for leaving us with such cheery news. That's awesome.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me. And you know, I guess you have an item later on in the we'll see where that goes, and you'll have a new CBO. I'm willing to help out and help them with the transition.
Thank you again for this update. 45 days comments or
Yep.
questions, Member Lay?
You mentioned about the reduced estimate general fund contribution from 2.1 million for universal meals funding
Yes.
to 440,000. That number already factor into your estimate actual.
It will be for the budget year.
Yes.
But we will bring you the child nutrition services budget as it closes out. We're still kind of paying, you know, all the bills, all of our food bills. They were higher, so some of our, you know, POs were higher. However, the state also did send some additional dollars for the whole supply chain issue. So we're going to kind of have all that together, but we'll let you know next meeting or with the unaudited actuals how the food services program ended up. It's looking very positive because the president acted and the governor.
Yeah, and I know the cost of food is increased crazy, you know, so I was wondering, you know, with the new budget will factor on of this inflation cost, and the cost of food is much higher than last year. You know, that's what you put factor into the whole general fund.
Right. They're you know, paying close to $5 for a lunch, which is very good.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Good job. We
You're
miss you.
welcome.
Very much. Moving on to item 9.01, which is a public hearing to become informed regarding the initial proposal for successor contract from the Eastside Union High School District to the San Jose Federation of Teachers, Local 957 AFT. We're going to follow the protocol for a legally required public hearing, which is that I am now declaring open the public hearing for item 9.01 to the public, for the public to become informed and express itself regarding the initial proposal for successor contract from the Eastside Union High School District to the San Jose Federation of Teachers, Local 957 AFT, AFL-CIO. I'm calling for any public speakers on this matter. For the second time, per the protocol, is there anyone who wishes to speak on this item, item 9.01? For the third and final time, we're calling for any speakers on item 9.01 on the initial proposal for successor contract from the East Side Union High School District to the San Jose Federation of Teachers, Local 957. Seeing that there is no one present who is wishing to speak, the public testimony for this hearing is, and the hearing is now closed. That concludes item 9.01. Moving on to item 9.02. And this is where action is required by the board to adopt the proposal for successor agreement from the school district to the San Jose Federation of Teachers. Questions, comments, or a motion?
A move to approve.
Moved by Cortese, seconded by member Lay. If there's no further action, please, excuse me, if there are no further comments, please call the roll.
President Herrera,
Aye.
Vice President Chavez, he's away at this time. Clerk Cortese,
Aye.
Member Lay,
Aye.
Member Joe.
Aye.
Okay, that passes, and we'll get Board Vice President's vote as soon as we can come.
Oh, aye.
Oh, you're voting aye. Okay, so it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 9.03, and this is to receive the initial proposal for successor contract from the San Jose Federation of Teachers, Local 957 AFT, to the Eastside Union High School District. And I will now open the public hearing on item 9.03. And there is a request to speak. I'm going to call forward Mr. Michael Delaney, the co-president of AFT. Please step to the microphone. And state your name for the record, even though I've called you by name. Your microphone needs to be on. Your microphone needs to be on.
Okay, Michael Delaney. So I'm a little disappointed but not surprised. There's been a big public turnout tonight for our sunshine proposal. Anyways, I wanted to stop by and introduce myself. I've met a few of you briefly. I wanted to come by, you put a face to a name for the rest of you. And say just a couple of words really quickly on behalf of Adult Ed and of our faculty and of proposal that we put forward. So I've been in Adult Ed since 1999, started off teaching GED for Metro Ed. And I've been off and on teaching ESL, different high school diploma classes, and basically a lot of ESL. And I've taught elsewhere. And I think myself, like many other adult ed teachers, there's a certain appeal. Adult ed is kind of a middle ground between the high school programs, community colleges. It's a land of second chances. We get a full broad range of students from 18 to literally into their early 80s. We have young students from Vietnam. They've got a bright academic future before them. They just stop by to brush up hone their English before they move on. And then we have students, Vietnamese women in their 70s with an incredible story to tell. In the class that I have right now, I've got a student from Siberia, and I've got a student who left Ukraine by way of Warsaw. We've got students from mainland China, and we've got students from who left mainland China to go to Venezuela because they didn't like the politics. And then when Hugo Chavez rose to power, they left Venezuela because they didn't like those politics. So it's a really dynamic situation. And I think that it really fits in with some of the principles that the district represents. I've been attending a lot of your board meetings since I became president a few months ago or in February. And some things like equitable communities, all students are welcomed as they are. Again, we get a really diverse range. And I think adult ed teachers are there because they like it. And we live up to those equitable community ideals. So I think we represent the district. We fit in with your goals and your principles and your values. Just a couple other things really quickly. A long LCAP discussion, I think right up to the end of your board meetings in June. Just a couple of your priorities: target populations, English language learners, low income, foster youth. In the GED program, we get students who coming back, they dropped out of high school for one reason or another. They've come back for a second chance. It's a great service that we offer. Also, parental engagement. In ESL, we get a lot of students, mothers. They drop off their children at some of the elementary schools, junior high schools in the district, and then they come over there because they want to hone their English so they can be better involved in their children's education, so they can speak with the teachers. So I think what we're doing in adult ed is really right in line with the principles of the district. One other thing I wanted to mention was just the last line in your equity principle. Was the effect of it's under employment practices. This is administrative regulation for equity. And employment practices, the most qualified staff is assigned to serve the students most in need. I think a lot of the students that come into adult ed are precisely that. And really that's why we're here to bargain a better contract, is so we can get staff and retain staff that can face the difficult pedagogical situation that adult education presents. So thanks for the opportunity to introduce myself and to say a little bit on behalf of adult ed and our faculty. I look forward to a late summer and early fall of good faith bargaining.
Glad you're with us this evening, representing adult ed, and good to know that you're in leadership position there now with this program and with the staff. So I'm going to make a second formal call for any comment as part of this formal public hearing. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on item 9.03? And for the third and final time, is there any further testimony on item 9.03 regarding the successor contract, the proposal for successor contract from the San Jose Federation of Teachers Local 957 to the district, Eastside High School District? Hearing no further comment, the public hearing is now closed, and that concludes item 9.03. We're going to move on to item 10 on the agenda, and this is for public members who wish to address the board. Are there any requests to speak?
There is no online public comment.
Mr. Superintendent, any others? Okay, item 10, there are no public members who wish to address the board. Moving on to item 11.01, to adopt proposed amendment to the 2022-2023 board meeting calendar. Mr. Superintendent.
What we have submitted for your consideration and discussion and ultimately to take action are the proposed amendments to the 22-23 board meeting calendar. And those changes are as follows: moving a board retreat from September 17 to October 8, and moving a regular board meeting from October 20th to the 25th.
Moved by member Lay. We need a second.
Second.
Seconded by member Doe. Please call the roll.
President Herrera,
Aye.
Vice President Chavez,
Aye.
Clerk Cortese,
Aye.
Member Lay,
Aye.
Member Doe.
Passes unanimously. And moving on to item 11.02 on CSBA call for nominations for director at large. Mr. Superintendent.
Okay, so this is recommended the Board of Trustees consider not submitting nominations for the directors of at large. The numbers, let's get the nomination pack. We have the nomination packet here. There's a due date for the nomination of September 20, and they're looking for, once again, the Director at Large nominations for Director at Large Asian Pacific Islander and Director at Large Hispanic.
And this is purely optional. If anyone wants to propose someone for nomination.
Correct.
I already delegated.
Okay. If there are no nominations, we're going to proceed with the agenda then. Okay, I see no nomination, hear no nominations. Well, it's someone who would then be put on the ballot for voting in the region to elect the Director at Large. Nominate them on to,
So Vaughn, you're already a delegate and Lorena is also a delegate. So
Both of us are delegates already. So I know, Brian, do you want, are you interested to submit the
we're fine.
It's another position is Director of Large.
I guess technically you could even nominate people from other districts, right?
Yeah, if we have somebody doing that. Yes.
Okay. All right. That closes item 11.02, but I'm going to back up to item 10.01 on public members who had wished to address the board. We picked one up a little late there, but let's, who wishes to speak? Mary Jo?
It is public comment online from parent Mr. Larson under 10.0. As a matter of concern, I have sent an email with many complaints on the ESUHSD Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. I sent this to Superintendent Vandersee. I got no response. Is this good to do as a school district? By avoiding possible areas of concern, Eastside Union High School District asked the parent to just submit more concerns on the same issue legally. This can be done at the next Citizens Bond Oversight Committee meeting. It must be attached to the minutes by law. So I will be getting more input from others and draft a public letter showing best practices and perhaps law violations. School Board Member Doe, in my opinion, and others, I speak with you, are not to ask questions at the Citizen Bond Oversight Committee unless you fill out a speaker card. And if you go to the CABOC, they will tell you, Superintendent Doe, you are not to influence the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee at all. So all things need to be reviewed, and I suggest school services come in and help Eastside. That is the end of online public comment under this section.
Oops. Thank you, Mr. Larson, for your comment. We're going to proceed with the agenda. There is nothing under section 12 of the agenda. So we're going to proceed to section or item 13, 13.01 resolution. Resolution and contract transition to partnership program with the state of California. Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, we're asking that you authorize and adopt this resolution that allows us to move into a 3-year agreement with the transition transition partnership program for a period of 3 years.
Move to approve?
Moved by Cortese, seconded by Doe. If there's no further comment, please call the roll.
President Herrera,
Aye.
Vice President Chavez,
Aye.
Clerk Cortese,
Aye.
Member Lay,
Aye.
Member Doe.
Aye.
This is unanimously. Moving on to 13.02 to approve contracts or services over 25,000. It's a standard operational item.
Correct.
Move to approve?
Moved by Cortese, seconded by Doe. They're doing the heavy lifting. Let's get other board members involved. Please call the roll.
President Herrera,
Aye.
Vice President Chavez,
Aye.
Clerk Cortese,
Aye.
Member Lay,
Aye.
Member Doe.
Aye.
Passes unanimously on item 13.03 regarding the increase of adult meal pricing.
Yeah, so there is a calculation that's developed by the federal government that expresses the minimum for an adult meal. And that's someone who is a non-student 18 years of older who decides to purchase our meals. Because the purpose of our funding for our CNS program is to feed students, not for students to feed adults in essence. And so the calculation is made that has a minimum. And so we've looked at the calculation, and the recommendation is to move for the adult meal prices for $3.50 for breakfast and $4.75 for lunch. Still a good deal. And if you're wondering of the size and scope of this action, it's average that we pretty much sell about 30 adult meals a month. So
Moved by Doe, seconded by Lay. Please call the roll.
President Herrera,
Aye.
Vice President Chavez,
Aye.
Clerk Cortese,
Aye.
Member Lay. Aye. Member Doe.
We do have a public comment on the prior item, 13.02. We're a little disjointed with the online and in-person process. So I'm going to go back to item 13.02. And Ms. Gillen, you have a public comment on 13.02 on contracts for professional services over 25,000.
Public comment online by Mr. Larson, parent. I request the school board request Ron Willihan to more specifically state what these monies are used for. Also, what schools get these things? I've asked before that all monies need to show the target of who got the monies, and two, what the monies are paid for. Here are mystery monies. Number 12, La Europa Academy LLC, amount not to exceed $210,000. Number 14, No Red Ink Corporation, amount not to exceed $123,578.75. Number 15, Parent Institute for Quality Education, $55,000, increase, amendment number 1. Number 18, Santa Clara County Office of Education, 1-year extension and $8,898.40, increase, amendment number 1. Number 19, Santa Clara County Office of Education, amount not to exceed $100,000. Number 20, Shape Education LLC, amount not to exceed $37,950. Number 21, Smarty Tools Incorporated, 1-year extension and $41,500 increase, amendment number 1. Number 22, the Kinship Society LLC, DBA Kinship Academy, amount not to exceed $150,000. That is the end of online public comment.
Again, thank you, Mr. Larson, for your comment. And moving on to item 1401, approving provisional permit request for certificated employees. Mr. Nguyen, do you-
That's the standard procedure.
That's not standard operational matter.
I'll second.
Moved by Doe, seconded by Cortese. Please call the roll.
President Herrera,
Aye.
Vice President Chavez,
Aye.
Clerk Cortese,
Aye.
Member Lay,
Aye.
Member Doe.
Passes unanimously. Item 14.02 on approving the variable term waiver request for certificated, for certificated employees. Moved by Doe, seconded by Lay. Please call the roll.
President Herrera,
Aye.
Vice President Chavez, Clerk Cortese,
Aye.
Member
Aye.
Lay, Member Doe.
Okay, thank you. Moving-
Mary, I said aye.
Yes, we got that. Thank you.
Item 14.03 to approve increase to the district's classified and certificated management salary schedules for unrepresented employees, not including the superintendent, associate superintendent, the senior manager of internal controls, and the senior manager of the bond program effective July 1, 2023.
Second.
Moved by Doe, seconded by Cortese. If there's no further comment, please call the roll.
President Herrera,
Aye.
Vice President Chavez,
Aye.
Clerk Cortese,
Aye.
Member Lay,
Aye.
Member Doe.
Thank you, and that passes unanimously. Item 14.04 to approve employment contract for Associate Superintendent of Business Services. Mr. Superintendent.
In July, we met and we described a selection process that we went through in looking to identify our next Associate Superintendent of Business Services. We went through that process and identified a person that is eager to continue the work of building equitable communities here in the East Side, Ms. Michelle Huntoon. And we brought her name for you for appointment in July. You took action to appoint and then directed me to enter into to work with her to establish a contract, which can only be accepted and ratified at a regularly scheduled meeting. And so I bring that contract for you tonight and ask that you approve the contract for Michelle Huntoon.
Move for approval.
One second.
Moved by Doe and seconded by Cortese. If there's no further comment, please call the roll.
President Herrera,
Aye.
Vice President Chavez,
Aye.
Clerk Cortese,
Aye.
Member Lay,
Aye.
Member Doe.
Aye.
By way of comment, so go ahead.
Passes unanimously, and I was just going to say, well, this formalizes dots i's and crosses t's, and we now do have a totally on board new Associate Superintendent for Business. Mr. Superintendent.
Yeah, we wanted to thank Ron Wheelahan for the work that he's done with us over the past couple months. He's been good for us. But I got to tell you, our district and the business and business services in our bond program have been really desirous of getting a full-time person on board that is looking to be here and continue the good work going forward. And we're really encouraged in Associate Superintendent Hunter and what she brings. And also, I just wanted, she's had experience as a superintendent, worked in a large district in business services, but we'll also be very, want to make note that some members of our community have been asking for someone from school services, and she has extensive, she worked with school services for many years. So we're really excited for her to join us tomorrow.
Did I just hear you say that she's worked for school services? Oh, thank you. Item 15.01, discussion and or action to approve the bond capital projects contracts over $50,000.
Move to approve.
Moved by Cortese. Seconded by Doe. If there's no further comment, all in favor, please say aye. Excuse me. Roll call, please. Please call the roll.
President Herrera,
Aye.
Vice President Chavez,
Aye.
Clerk Cortese,
Aye.
Member Lay,
Aye.
Member Doe.
Aye.
Um,
Board President, we also just received 20.02.
So 20.01 and 20.02.
Yes, sir.
Okay, those two items are pulled, but there's a motion in order to approve the rest of the consent calendar. Moved by Lay and seconded by Doe. Please call the roll.
President Herrera,
Aye.
Vice President Chavez,
Aye.
Clerk Cortese,
Aye.
Member Lay,
Aye.
Member Doe.
Okay, for item 20.01, the California Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act. There is a public comment. Please bring that forward.
Public comment online by parent Kevin Larson. I request Ron Wheelahan be asked if such projects that are over, say, 20,000 need a bid. It looks like lots and lots of projects here are over $20,000. Did they go out to bid? This is a question that has to do with following law, in my opinion. So I asked Ron Wheelahan to answer this question to the school board. I do not see that these monies went out to bid. Please review the projects and amounts, school board. That is the end of public comment for 2001.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Larson, and members of the board. A motion is in order for 20.01.
Move to approve.
Moved by Cortese, seconded by Doe. Please call the roll.
President Herrera,
Aye.
Vice President Chavez,
Aye.
Clerk Cortese,
Aye.
Member Lay,
Aye.
Member Doe.
Thank you. Passes unanimously. And moving on to 20.02 for professional services at or below $50,000. There's a public comment. Please bring that forward.
Online public comment by parent Mr. Larson. Again, these projects need to be figured out if they can be approved without a bid. This seems to say that anything over $50,000 needs a bid. I asked Ron Wilhan to clarify. I think bids need to be done on things below $50,000. I request the school board clarify this with Ron Wilhan. That is the end of online public comment for this item.
Mr. Larson, for your comment, there's a motion in order for 20.02.
A second.
Moved by Lay, seconded by Cortese. Please call the roll.
President Herrera,
Aye.
Vice President Chavez,
Aye.
Clerk Cortese,
Aye.
Member Lay.
Aye.
Member Doe. The motion passes 5-0.
Very much. And moving on past the consent calendar to item 20.01, and there are no items there. Moving on to 22.01, and this is an opportunity for members of the board to request items on future agendas. And hearing none, I'm going to continue then. Item 20.02 is simply for the record, items that have previously been requested and their status. If there's no comment or question on that, I'm going to move forward to the very end of the meeting where we have comments from the board, the superintendent and superintendent. I'm going to start to my left with Member Doe for any comment in closing. Comment from Member Doe, Clerk Cortese.
Just welcome back, everybody, and very pleased to hear about the positive opening of schools this year.
Member Lay.
I'm echo the same with board member Patty Cortese. Welcome back, everyone, and also appreciate staff, teachers, and administrator that help have an open school smoothly, and also have the invitation to the Moon Festival on September 10, 2022, at Yobabuna High School. I have a couple of students from East Side working on the Moon Festival. So I think this is going to be a great opportunity for our school and our district to showcase some of their talents, as well as if we have some booth to showcase our marketing. So looking forward to see everyone there.
Great. Vice President Chavez.
Welcome back, everybody. Here's to a strong school year.
You sound really good. Your voice sounds great. Moving on, Mr. Superintendent let me make my comment. I want to add also the welcome. You can feel that whole sense of a new year beginning and the team pulling together, and it just feels like it's going to be a good year. So welcome to everyone. And Mr. Superintendent, any comment?
Yeah, I want to thank everybody who worked over the summer. We had, how many sessions do we have Independence that day? Over 90 sessions, over 600 staff, classified certificate in attendance. And it just felt good to be together. There was a definite sense of like, okay, we're in community together and preparing for a good start of the year. And I just want to thank staff the way they greeted each other and met with students at the beginning of this year. Last year, we were tripping about what was the impact of COVID going to be and staying physically safe. And we found out that some of our students really needed some help in getting ready to be back together. And our staff really provided that this year, and great start. They returned to community, but our students also returned to a promise. And we've got amazing programs, CTE programs, alternative programs. We've got the 2-year programs with our community college, but we entered it also into an agreement with San Jose State for the next 5 years that East Side students only, if you meet the A through G criteria with a grade average, a minimum grade point average, and then also just apply before November 30, you're in. And so rather than making college or the option for college, the opportunity for college nebulous for students, they now have in their hands an open invitation from San Jose State saying, we welcome you. Identify your areas of strength and growth. Let's have our high school respond positive so you can be a full participant there at San Jose State and in Silicon Valley. So I want to thank San Jose State for that opportunity. I want to thank all our educators and staff that are getting the word out on that, and just invite any student that wants to set that as a destination. The university wants you there, and we're ready to work with you now to get you there. So let's be about it. Thank you.
Board meeting evaluation, any comments?
Board President, I forgot to mention that the Moon Festival proceeds will be fundraised for the McKinney Vento students. So like every year that we done during the Christmas holidays. And I know ESTA usually support the event and really appreciate that. And I hope that we can fundraise a little bit more for this year.
Very good. Board meeting evaluation 23.04, any comments?
Well, ordinarily, a good board meeting is 65% about student achievement, but we don't really have that information yet. So I say any board meeting that's over in an hour is a good meeting.
They throw in dinner too. So, okay, report from closed session.
Closed session item 2.07, claim for damages of C. Davis. A motion by member Von Lay, second by member Cortese to reject the claim, and the board unanimously approved the rejection of the claim of C. Davis. Also 2.07, damages of Partida. Motion by member Cortese, second by member Doe. The board unanimously approved the rejection of the claim for damages of Partida. Closed session item 2.05, motion by member Cortese, second by member Doe. The board unanimously approved the demotion, the disciplinary action demotion of one classified manager pursuant to board policy 4318. There are no further actions to report.
Thank you. If there's, oh, wait a minute, I think was there a comment, Ms. Gillen, that somehow we didn't?
There was a public comment that came in on item 2201 after the discussion ended.
What?
And it was
Oh, 2201.
future items,
Oh, yeah, that's for the board. That isn't,
right?
yeah, that's not for the public. Thank you. I'm going to adjourn this meeting. We have concluded. Thank you.